Tonight, somewhere in this country, a man in his 70s is standing in his kitchen. He has a jar of raw honey in one hand and a bottle of olive oil in the other. He watched a video promising that this combination could jumpstart his testosterone within 24 hours. So he's going to mix it together. He's going to swallow it. And tomorrow morning, he's probably going to feel absolutely nothing. Not because the idea of supporting testosterone naturally is worthless, because nobody did the arithmetic for him. Each kilogram of honey contains only about 7 milligrams of boron. A teaspoon of honey weighs roughly 7 grams. That means a teaspoon gives you around 5/100ths of a milligram of boron. The study people keep quoting used 10 milligrams of boron a day. 10. That study involved only 8 men. To get that much boron from honey alone, you'd need an absurd amount of honey. So, the famous claim that a spoonful of honey will dramatically raise testosterone is not what the research actually shows. And I want you to stay with me, because I'm not telling you this to take something away from you. I'm telling you because there are genuinely useful things you can combine with olive oil. Some may already be sitting in your kitchen. But the reason they may help has almost nothing to do with the story you've been told online. My name is Dr. John, and I've spent more than 25 years practicing internal medicine, much of that time helping men in exactly the position you're in right now. Men in their 60s, 70s, and 80s who walk into my office and say, "I don't feel like myself anymore. Low energy, less desire, poor sleep, difficulty maintaining strength, and far too often they hear one word, aging." Tonight, I want to explain why that answer is sometimes incomplete. There are 10 things I want to walk through with you, and stay until the end, because number 4 is the claim I most need to correct, while number 10 comes from one of the strongest human trials discussed in this entire topic. Let's begin. 1. The real reason testosterone drops after 60. Here's something important. Research looking at testosterone changes over time has found that once researchers account for conditions that commonly arrive with age, the relationship between age itself and testosterone becomes much smaller. Things like anemia, diabetes, metabolic disease, extra body fat, poor sleep, chronic illness, medications, these matter. And that changes the way you should think about your hormones. Yes, testosterone does gradually decline with age, even in healthy men, but that natural decline is relatively slow. What many men actually feel is the combination of normal aging plus a long list of additional problems: inflammation, poor sleep, blood sugar problems, weight gain, certain medications, and increased abdominal fat. Think of it like an old electrical circuit. Yes, the wiring is older, that's aging. But the reason the lights are flickering may not be the age of the wiring. It may be that you've plugged 4 space heaters, a freezer, and an air conditioner into the same circuit. You can't make the wiring brand new, but you can reduce the load. And for many older men, that's where the real opportunity begins. 2. Why olive oil belongs in the conversation. Testosterone is built from cholesterol. Your body takes cholesterol into specialized cells in the testes and converts it through a series of steps into testosterone. So dietary fat isn't simply irrelevant to hormones. It provides part of the raw material. And olive oil is interesting for another reason. A small study conducted in Morocco found that healthy adult men consuming extra virgin olive oil experienced an increase in testosterone, along with a rise in luteinizing hormone, the signal from the brain that tells the testes to produce testosterone. The testosterone increase was around 17%. The luteinizing hormone increase was around 43%. But let's be precise. That was a small study. It was not hundreds of older men. It is not established that olive oil will raise your testosterone by 17%. That would be an irresponsible conclusion. What the study gives us is a promising signal. And olive oil has several other advantages. It's rich in monounsaturated fat. It's a major part of the Mediterranean dietary pattern. It contains polyphenols that help protect against oxidative stress. And perhaps most importantly for tonight, it's a fat. That matters because several of the compounds we're going to talk about are fat-soluble. Olive oil can act as a delivery vehicle, so don't think of olive oil as a magic testosterone booster. Think of it as a useful nutritional foundation. Choose extra virgin olive oil, ideally in a dark bottle, and keep it away from heat and light. 3. The biggest testosterone lever may cost you nothing: sleep. You don't produce testosterone at a constant level throughout the day. Testosterone follows a daily rhythm. It rises during the night and is generally highest in the morning. That's one reason testosterone testing is usually done early in the day. But the important point is this: you need actual sleep to support that rhythm. In a well-known laboratory study, 10 healthy young men were restricted to 5 hours of sleep a night for 1 week. Their daytime testosterone dropped by roughly 10 to 15%. Think about that. 1 week. And the researchers described the hormonal reduction as comparable to the decline associated with years of aging. Now think about older men. How many are getting truly restorative sleep? Maybe you're waking up several times to use the bathroom, maybe your joints hurt, maybe your mind stays active at 3 in the morning, or maybe you have sleep apnea and don't know it. If your partner has told you that you stop breathing at night, if you wake with headaches, or if you feel exhausted despite spending 8 hours in bed, talk to your doctor about a sleep study, because no spice, oil, seed, or supplement can compensate for chronically broken sleep. You cannot out-supplement sleep deprivation. And I want to make another distinction clear. Nothing in this video is testosterone replacement therapy. If your testosterone is genuinely low and you have symptoms, that's a medical issue that deserves proper evaluation. Kitchen ingredients are not a substitute for diagnosis. 4. Raw honey, and the claim, I have to correct. This is the one you've probably heard. Raw honey contains boron. Boron can affect testosterone. Therefore, honey dramatically raises testosterone. The first part is real. The conclusion is where the internet gets carried away. Boron is a trace mineral, and researchers have investigated whether it may influence testosterone and other hormones. One small study gave healthy men 10 milligrams of boron per day for 1 week. Free testosterone increased and estradiol decreased. Interesting? Absolutely. Enough evidence to say a teaspoon of honey will produce the same effect? No. Because the dose matters. Honey contains only about 7 milligrams of boron per kilogram. A teaspoon contains roughly 0.05 of a milligram. The study used 10 milligrams. That's an enormous difference. And there's another issue. Honey is still mostly sugar. For a man with diabetes or impaired glucose control, adding a large amount of honey before bed is not exactly a sophisticated metabolic strategy. So, should honey be completely avoided? No. A small amount can be perfectly reasonable for someone with normal blood sugar. But don't mistake honey for the engine of this routine. If you're specifically interested in dietary boron, foods such as raisins, prunes, nuts, avocados, and beans are much more meaningful sources. The honest lesson is simple. A real nutrient does not automatically make every food containing that nutrient a powerful treatment. Dose matters. Bioavailability matters. And evidence matters. 5. Ginger, a plausible mechanism, but don't oversell it. Ginger appears in almost every natural testosterone discussion. And there is a reason. A substantial amount of research, particularly in animals, has found that ginger can improve antioxidant status, support reproductive function, and influence testosterone-related pathways. The proposed mechanisms are interesting: reduced oxidative stress, better blood flow, support for luteinizing hormone. The problem is that much of this evidence comes from rats and other animal models. We don't yet have the large, high-quality human trials in older men that would justify saying, take ginger and your testosterone will rise. So I won't say it. What I can say is that ginger has genuine human health benefits beyond testosterone, particularly for nausea and certain inflammatory processes. And its active compounds can be incorporated into a meal containing fat. So, if you enjoy ginger, adding a little to this kind of nutritional routine is reasonable. But don't confuse reasonable with proven testosterone therapy. And one safety point matters here. Ginger has mild antiplatelet effects. If you're taking warfarin, apixaban, clopidogrel, or daily aspirin, talk with your doctor or pharmacist before using concentrated amounts of ginger. 6. Zinc, the one that matters most when you're deficient. If I had to choose one mineral with a very clear connection to testosterone production, zinc would be high on the list. Zinc is involved in the enzymatic processes that help build testosterone, and there is some compelling evidence in older men who are actually deficient. In a 1996 study, marginally zinc-deficient elderly men were supplemented with zinc for 6 months. Their testosterone rose from about 8.3 to 16 nanomoles per liter. That's a dramatic change. But I want you to remember one word: deficient. That's the word that protects you from bad supplement advice. If you're low in zinc, correcting the deficiency can make a meaningful difference. If you're already getting enough zinc, taking huge doses isn't going to keep pushing testosterone upward, and excessive zinc over time can create copper deficiency, which can lead to anemia and neurological problems. So don't fall into the trap of thinking, if a little helps, a lot must help more. Food sources are a better place to start. Pumpkin seeds, oysters, beef, cashews. If you suspect you're deficient, discuss it with your doctor, rather than blindly taking high-dose supplements. 7. Magnesium, making more of the testosterone you already have available. This one is especially interesting because magnesium may influence the relationship between testosterone and sex hormone-binding globulin. Remember that most of the testosterone in your bloodstream is bound to proteins. Only a portion is considered free and readily available to tissues. Research suggests magnesium may reduce the binding affinity between testosterone and sex hormone-binding globulin, potentially increasing the amount of usable testosterone. There are also studies showing increases in total and free testosterone after magnesium supplementation, particularly in men who are physically active. But again, we're not talking about a magic pill. We're talking about correcting a potential shortfall. Many adults don't consume enough magnesium, and older adults may be especially vulnerable because of medications, diabetes, dietary patterns, and other conditions. Magnesium also plays a role in muscle function and sleep, which brings us right back to our third point. Better sleep, better recovery, better overall metabolic health. Food sources include pumpkin seeds, almonds, spinach, black beans, and dark chocolate. And if you use a supplement, magnesium glycinate or citrate are generally better tolerated than magnesium oxide. If you have significant kidney disease, don't supplement magnesium without medical guidance. 8. Turmeric and black pepper, the absorption problem. Now we get to one of my favorite combinations. Turmeric contains curcumin, a compound with extensive research behind it. Curcumin has anti-inflammatory properties, and chronic inflammation is deeply connected to metabolic health and hormonal health. But curcumin has one major problem. Your body doesn't absorb it very well by itself. In fact, most of it is processed and eliminated before reaching significant levels in the bloodstream. This is where black pepper becomes interesting. A classic study found that adding piperine, the active component of black pepper, dramatically increased curcumin bioavailability. The increase was roughly 20-fold. In other words, the black pepper isn't just there for flavor. It changes how the compound is absorbed and metabolized. And then there is the olive oil. Curcumin is fat-soluble, so you're now combining 3 things that solve different problems. Turmeric provides curcumin, black pepper improves its absorption, olive oil provides a fat-based delivery environment. That doesn't mean the combination will skyrocket your testosterone. That's not what the evidence proves. But it does make nutritional sense as part of an overall anti-inflammatory dietary pattern. And there are precautions. Piperine can affect how certain medications are metabolized. Turmeric may also have blood-thinning effects and can stimulate gallbladder contraction. So, if you're taking anticoagulants or have gallstones, get medical guidance before using concentrated amounts. 9. Garlic, because hormones still need blood flow. Here's a point I wish more people understood. You can have a perfectly respectable testosterone number and still feel terrible. Why? Because hormones don't work in isolation. Your tissues need blood flow, muscles need blood, your brain needs blood. Sexual function depends heavily on healthy circulation, and the inner lining of your blood vessels, called the endothelium, tends to become less healthy with age. That's one reason erectile difficulties can sometimes be an early warning sign of cardiovascular problems. Garlic is especially interesting here. The human evidence for garlic is much stronger for blood pressure and cardiovascular function than it is for testosterone itself. Research suggests garlic supplementation can improve blood pressure and aspects of endothelial function. The active compounds come from processes that occur when garlic is crushed. So if you're using fresh garlic, crush or chop it and let it sit for about 10 minutes before heating it. That allows the enzymatic reaction to occur. Again, we're not claiming garlic is a testosterone drug. We're saying it may support one of the systems your testosterone depends on. And because garlic can affect platelet function, concentrated supplementation deserves caution if you're taking blood thinners or certain medications. 10. Fenugreek, the strongest human trial in this list. Now we come to the ingredient with some of the most interesting human evidence in this entire discussion: fenugreek. In 2024, a randomized double-blind, placebo-controlled trial published in PLOS One included 245 healthy men between the ages of 40 and 80. That's important. Not 8 men, not rats, hundreds of men. The study found that fenugreek extract increased salivary testosterone compared with placebo. But here's the part the supplement advertisements conveniently leave out. It did not produce a corresponding improvement in libido. That distinction matters. A biological change on a laboratory measurement does not automatically mean the person feels dramatically different. Fenugreek contains compounds called furanolinic saponins, and one proposed mechanism involves influencing aromatase, the enzyme that converts testosterone into estrogen. Aromatase is particularly relevant in men carrying excess abdominal fat because fat tissue contributes to this conversion. And that brings us to one of the most important testosterone interventions of all: losing excess visceral fat. We spend hours talking about powders and spices while ignoring one of the strongest factors influencing the testosterone environment. Your waistline matters, your sleep matters, your activity matters, your metabolic health matters. And fenugreek may have a place in that larger picture, but it is not a miracle. It can also lower blood sugar, which matters if you're taking diabetes medication. And people with certain legume allergies should be cautious. So, what should you actually do tonight? Not 10 things. 1. Go into your house and gather every medication and supplement you're taking. Prescription drugs, over-the-counter products, vitamins, herbal supplements, everything. Put them on the table. Write down the name and dose. Then write these 2 questions underneath. Can we check my morning testosterone? And, could any of my medications be contributing to this? Then add, should I be evaluated for sleep apnea? Take that list to your doctor. Don't wait until the final 2 minutes of the appointment. Several commonly used medications can affect testosterone. Long-term opioid pain medications are a particularly important example. Certain blood pressure medicines, some antidepressants, corticosteroids, and other drugs may also contribute in specific situations. I've seen men spend years buying supplements when the actual problem was sitting inside the pill organizer. That's why measurement matters. You cannot fix what nobody has measured, and if you still want a simple food-based ritual, here's the honest version: a tablespoon of extra virgin olive oil, a crushed clove of garlic allowed to rest for about 10 minutes, a small amount of turmeric, a pinch of black pepper, a little grated ginger, a small handful of pumpkin seeds for zinc and magnesium, cinnamon if you enjoy it, and honey only if your blood sugar is well controlled and you're using it for taste, not because you expect a hormonal explosion. This mixture is not going to transform your testosterone in 24 hours. Nothing you eat is going to do that. What this approach can do is provide healthy fats, plant compounds, minerals, and ingredients that support circulation and overall metabolic health. Combine that with restorative sleep, exercise, appropriate body weight, and a medication review, and you have something much more meaningful than a viral kitchen recipe. You have a foundation, and that's what I want you to remember. Go back to that man standing in his kitchen. He wasn't stupid. He wasn't gullible. He was looking for an explanation. For years, he had felt different. Less energy, less desire, less strength, and somebody told him, it's just aging. Then the internet came along with a jar of honey and a promise. That's what happens when people don't receive useful information from the beginning. The problem isn't that they care about their health too much. The problem is that they haven't been given enough accurate information. So, here's what I want you to take away from tonight. Your body has not simply quit because you've gotten older. Yes, aging is real. Testosterone can gradually decline. But many of the things affecting how you feel at 60, 70, or 80 are not simply your birth certificate. Sleep can change, body fat can change, exercise can change, blood sugar can change, nutrition can change, medication lists can be reviewed, deficiencies can be corrected, sleep apnea can be diagnosed and treated, and genuine hormone deficiency can be evaluated properly. That's very different from being finished. You don't need a miracle. You need to understand the system. You need to know what's actually been measured. And you need to stop letting the internet turn a trace mineral, a spice, or a spoonful of honey into a magical cure. Because knowing the difference between a promising idea and proven treatment isn't a small thing. It's the whole thing. Before you go, share this video with one man over 60 who needs honest information about this. A brother, a friend, a neighbor, your husband. Men often don't talk about low energy, low desire, or hormonal changes with each other. They quietly decide something must be wrong with them. It doesn't have to stay that way. And if you're not subscribed, subscribe. I would rather build this channel around people who want the real numbers than people who want miracle promises. Finally, leave a comment with two things: your age, and whether you've ever actually had your testosterone checked. This video is for educational and informational purposes only. It is not individual medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Before changing medications, supplements, or health routines, speak with your physician, pharmacist, urologist, or endocrinologist, especially if you take blood thinners, diabetes medication, blood pressure medication, or other prescription drugs. I'm Dr. John. I'll see you in the next video.